Om. 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 Dear friends, Namaste to all of you. We will deal with a very important topic which most of us face in almost everyday life. The topic is how to maintain enthusiasm in the work which we undertake. It is our common experience that we begin the endeavor or we undertake the work with all the enthusiasm, energy and vigor, but shortly after a while we get deflated and we feel no energy is left. We get derailed and we are thrown into the state of despair, as happened to Arjuna in the battlefield just before the battle were to begin. So the question comes, how to maintain our initial zeal and enthusiasm in the work till it is completed. Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, in verse number 30 of chapter 3, gives answer to this question. But we have to follow precisely the definitions and the methodology what Krishna has given out in this verse in order to get the 100% result of what is assured in this verse. The verse reads like this: Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. What it means is, dedicate all actions unto me. By doing so, ego is surrendered. That is, both the sense of doership as well as sense of enjoyership, both of these are surrendered to the Lord. The term me uttered by Krishna means, me refers to the Supreme Lord. That means the Atman or the Paramatman. Thus, the botheration of carrying the heavy load of result of the action is not carried by me, but transferred to another agency or transferred to the shoulder of Paramatman. That is, thereby I am unburdening the load which is coming on me to the shoulders of the Lord. What a great relief if we do this, because we have absolutely no botheration of holding on our shoulder. Therefore, we feel relieved. At that time, the work as we can, what we are endeavoring, will have lots of energy conserved in us, and that flows into the action field. Our mind is usually habituated to wander either to the dead past or to the unborn future, and is hardly available in the present. Therefore, the major portion of our energy is dissipated, as it were, into these two wasteful channels. Therefore, the verse describes nirashihi nirmamaha. Nirashihi means without hope for the future. Hope refers to the future time, whereas we are engaged in the present. So the point is that do not shift your mind, do not shift your focus, do not take your mind to the future which is still unborn, and then arrest the mind and do not dive into the unborn future or to the dead past. But it is common knowledge that it is a serious diversion from the work on hand. That means we are diverting our attention from the present, which should actually be focused on the work. Therefore, the energy is completely drained, which is of no use. Similarly, the mind invariably slips fast to the past memories. So either to the past or to the future is the grazing field of the mind. It is so irresistible. Therefore, this again leads to heavy discharge of energy, leaving very little energy for us to work in the present. Therefore, past, again we have to understand, past means it is something which is already over. There is absolutely no use in brooding over the past while engaged in work now. This is again a highly wasteful channel of energy, which is significant amount of energy. That's why somebody said, nobody is rich enough to buy back the past. Therefore, having thus losing our vital energy into the said wasteful channels, very little energy is left to the present. Therefore, we feel at that juncture that the experience, what we go through, is fatigue, lack of interest, and also feel a kind of drag while working. It is easy to recognize that to retain the energy and vigor we had in the beginning of the work, we have to plug in the opening through which the energy is being wasted. So how do we do this? It's easily said than done. The verse gives out the technique of centering the mind on the self, Atman. Adhyatma Chetasa. This is what the word means. So past, future, that means increase and decrease the energy. All this belong to the plane of matter. There is an agency or element other than matter called Chaitanya, or the spirit, or the consciousness, or Atman. All these are words which carry the same meaning. Now Atman, which is the power to dynamize the inert matter. The inert matter, initially driven by the spirit, moves but slowly loses its speed and finally comes to a stop. At this stage, if we have to make it to move, we have to again tap the power from the spirit within. Similarly, the mind which has lost its original level of energy has to tap the energy from Atman, which is a source of infinite power. If this has to happen, the mind is to be centered in the self. This is what is meant by Adhyatma Chetasa. The infinite power is within us. So if we know the skill to tap this power, we get recharged, we get rejuvenated, and we do feel that we have gained lots of energy. That energy is not coming from outside, but energy is within already, but I have known the technique of tapping it from within. This is what Bhagavad Gita is telling, explaining the word Adhyatma Chetasa, centered in the self. Self means Atman. Self means capital S-E-L-F and not small s-E-L-F. This is what we have to know. Small s-E-L-F is ego, capital S-E-L-F is the Atman, which has got infinite potential and the power. So this appears to be perfectly logical, workable advice to fill the mind with enormous energy. Also, this is the only way to prevent the past and the future to interfere in the present. Self can also be substituted by a noble ideal, that is, dedicating all actions at the chosen altar. When he says Adhyatma Chetasa, one meaning is that you center in the self. The same self can be substituted by a noble ideal, an ideal which is very lofty, an ideal which is not rooted in the selfish desires, an ideal which is serving the cause of the whole, an ideal which serves the society with lots of good. So you submit yourself to that noble ideal, then also that supplies vital energy. In fact, the submission to the altar actually helps even at the time when we fail in the attempt. In fact, the failure itself acts as a motivating factor. Failure itself, the more I fail, or degree of failure when it is more, I get more inspiration. This appears paradoxical but true. Therefore, you have to dedicate all actions into the chosen altar or the ideal, and that supplies vital energy, and that plugs the leakages of the past and the future. Therefore, this process will also help us to work with the same vigor with which we started the work. And this helps us to reach the destination or the end of our success in our action. This is the secret what Krishna is explaining here. Further, we may notice that we also go through feverish excitements in the present. This is the term explained by Yudhyasya Vigata Jvaraha. Therefore, while we work, we must be freed from the past, freed from the clutches of the unborn future, but also freed from the excitements of the present. This is the word tells Vigata Jvaraha in this verse. If we are strongly committed to the chosen ideal, our mind identified with the self, even the feverish excitement of the present can be avoided because our focus is mainly on the ideal. Therefore, automatically, the load is transferred to the ideal, load is transferred to the altar, and therefore, I am neither bothered by the feverish excitement of the present, or the pressure of the dead past, or the anxiety of the unborn future. So, this is the theme what Krishna is driving home. Thus, all the said areas of dissipation of energy is plugged in, and consequently, full quantum is available for us in the work on hand. Further elaboration is given in verse number 10 of chapter 5, which reads, Brahmanyadhaya karmane sangam tyaktva karotyah lipyate nasapapena padmapatramivambhasa. He who acts offering all actions to God and shaking off attachment remains untouched by sin as lotus leaf in water. What a beautiful concept. Lotus is born in water, is grown in water, and again it perishes in water. But yet it is untouched by water. This is the beauty of the lotus flower. Similarly, whoever Brahman Yadhaya Karmani, whoever dedicates all actions into Brahman, means Paramatman, the same thing what is meant by the earlier verse, Sangam Tyaktva Karotyaha, detach yourself from the phala, the fruits of action. Sangam Tyaktva, attachment to the fruits of action. So give up that attachment and then dedicate all your actions unto Brahman or the chosen altar. If you do that, Lipyate Nasape Papena, that means you are not tainted by the sin, or you are not tainted by the fruits of action, what you are going to get. So just like the lotus leaf. So this is the scheme what is elaborated of the same theme of the earlier verse in the chapter 5. So that will empower him the necessary energy to complete the task. Consequence of actions, be it joy or sorrow, success or failure, do not touch or taint the actor of action. Therefore, they do not bother him. His mind is firmly anchored to God, Brahman Yadhaya Karmani, at all times, and therefore he is provided with ceaseless enthusiasm and will maintain smile with no hatred or special attraction to anybody or anything. So he is able to maintain that smile all the time if he works with this attitude. This is what we have to know. Therefore, when he is under the spell of supreme bliss, this is the sign of ideal devotee with total surrender. But we should not do it half-heartedly. Generally what we do is, we know this or we understand this verse all right, but while doing action, we get a doubt whether he is going to succeed, whether the thief is okay or not. We something like a doubting Thomas. So you should not have such doubt. You must have total faith and surrender yourself totally unto the Lord. If you do that, definitely we do not get deflated by the energy. We get full vigor and then enthusiasm to work. Again, in verse 57 of chapter 18, we find more or less the same explanation. So what he is telling is, Chetasa sarva karmane maisanyasya matparaha buddhi yogamupashritya machittam satatam bhava. Mentally resigning all your duties to me and taking recourse to yoga in the form of even-mindedness, be solely devoted to me and constantly give your mind to me. Therefore, the question is, yoga means joining. That means making the mind to be anchored to the Brahman, anchored to the Lord, anchored to the Atman. If you do that also, you get the necessary motivation, and you are empowered with a special power that you do not get opportunity to deflate your energy. A person who dedicates all his actions to God, sense of ownership of action by the mind. That means it is I, the doer. I do this, I am doing this. This sense of ownership, sense of agency is not there. Therefore, the mind, sense organs, all these things are surrendered to the Lord. All the attachment to the results are given up, and treats all these being taken care of by the Lord. He considers that he is simply an instrument in the hands of God and executing the will of God. He therefore firmly believes on God and takes a plunge into the action. When he does this, definitely all the leakages of energy is dissipated. So it is easy to experiment this in our own day-to-day work, because normally when we hear these verses, I have heard people telling that it is very nice to hear all right Bhagavad Gita shlokas, it is also nice to explain, but when it comes to the question of doing work, we say it won't work. In fact, you start with this axiom or assumption. If you start any work with an assumption that it won't work, definitely it won't work. You are actually reinforcing the negativity right in the beginning. You should not be doing that. It should be the other way. You work with full faith. You work with dedication. You work completely on the lines what is suggested by Sri Krishna. Definitely you are going to find a difference in your work. And you find, as I said earlier, you will be able to maintain smile in all the work from beginning to end. But usually we start with a smile but end up with a grief. Our face itself tells you that the man has lost his energy. Therefore, let us take a dedication. Let us take the guide from Krishna's direction, Krishna's very useful tips, and then find a difference in our life. Definitely, this makes a beginning. This gives a turning point in our life, and we just say, oh, what a wastage of life I had led all these years. Now I know what is the secret of action. With that new zeal and enthusiasm, we definitely plunge in the action and will be a model even for others. So let us maintain this theme in our mind and engage all the actions in this method. Definitely that is going to be, I will be doing it smilingly. Work gets done well, quality of work is assured, and this is what is one is expected to do, and we give a great contribution to society. Hari Om.